Okay, brilliant. Well, welcome back to another episode of Legal Unicorns here in the Cape. And I'm delighted today to be joined by Richard Thompson, who is a man that I've started to get to know. He's been to a couple of our events and very interestingly set up on his own relatively recently, which I'm keen to get into. I think that moving into your own firm and that consultancy space is of great interest to our listeners. But yes, it's a Friday afternoon down here in the Cape. So Richard, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Rob. It's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to chatting today.
Brilliant. Well, look, I mean, as I've said before, and we've discussed, and the listeners know themselves, is that we are shining a light on African talent in South Africa and across different borders as well, that are doing something slightly different, taking a chance with their career, putting themselves out there, and you really fit that mold. So, thanks for joining. So very, very briefly, could you give us an introduction to yourself and where you're from and your background?
Sure. So born in Joburg, moved down to Cape Town when I was 9. My parents are both from Cape Town, but my dad worked for Truworths. He was transferred down to Joburg, and then I think the plan was always to come back to Cape Town, but a bit later. Then he got transferred back to Cape Town when I was, like I say, 9, and been in the Cape ever since. Went to school here, apart from a gap year that I did after school in England. But yeah, Joburg, funny story. I was just, my dad showed me the other day that I wrote a little letter to my friends when we were leaving, saying that, you know, my dad's promised to get us a holiday house in Joburg, and we'll fly up every weekend, and obviously nonsense, and I think I've been back once since that. So yeah, the holidays were few and far between.
Is that how he sold it to you?
Yeah, that's how he sold. Yeah.
You come back every weekend.
Yeah. We'll get a beautiful holiday house, in Sandton City, not a like a beachside holiday. But anyway, yeah. So Cape Town, schooled here. And yeah, that's pretty much the schooling side of things. Should I?
Yeah, of course. So, we'll get into that a little bit more as well. But so, in terms of you and your legal career, so and we'll go the education. So, you schooled here. Where did you go to school?
I went to Bishop's.
Okay, nice school.
Good school. Yeah, good school.
And then a university was
UCT.
Oh, UCT. So relatively close.
Yeah. I haven't really. Yeah. Moved around
you're based in the southern suburbs as well, so it kind of draws you in.
Yeah,
right?
I did live in town for a few years, but yeah, moved back now that I've got a family as well. Moved back to the southern suburbs.
And UCT, you studied law or LLB or BCom?
Yeah, I initially did a business science, or a bishop science, as they sometimes call it, because a lot of guys just go that route, and. Yeah, so I did one of these career assessment things in matric, to see what I should do, because I didn't really have a clue, and I remember it was like a 2-3 day thing of testing, and then at the end they kind of just said, I felt really duped because they just said, yeah, you can do whatever you want, so money well spent there. And yeah, so really didn't know what I wanted to do. Went on a gap year, worked as a stooge at a school in England, came back, did the business science route. I started out doing finance CA, very quickly changed to non-CA because I didn't do great in accounting.
Yeah.
I learned because at school I was quite a good crammer of studying for exams. Learned very quickly that you can't kind of study accounting 2 days before when you don't have the basics. So, and then ended up doing a business science marketing. Finished with that, and then at that stage kind of didn't really want to go that route in my career. I didn't think marketing was where I wanted to be. And then also, truth be told, I also kind of, I suppose, struggled a little bit in those days in my mid-20s with a little bit of like mental health problems, anxiety, depression. I didn't think I was ready for the workforce. So yeah, then the decision to study law was, I was thinking about this, like, why did I decide that route? And I think it was as simple as I enjoyed debating at school. I was part of the debating society. I think I was decent, and my parents always said that I liked to argue, and wasn't bad at arguing. So yeah, that was the decision to do law, and
that was in the mid-20s, really.
Yeah,
so sort of like you said, going into the workforce, struggling like some of us do, some people do, which it's not uncommon, and not really finding the direction that you wanted.
Yeah,
and then going, right, now actually let's take a step back and study something that I really want to do.
Yes, 100%. And I'm very, very happy that I made that decision. Went straight into postgrad LLB. Another quick, interesting story about the differentiation between marketing and law. I still recall my first constitutional law assignment, which I wrote this. It was an essay, and I thought it was like really good, and got my mark back, and it was like 2 out of 20. And I remember they just said, you're talking around the point, not getting to the facts. And I think that was it. Very, very quickly realized that studying marketing, without nothing against marketing. I mean, I ironically do quite a bit of marketing now for my business. So, but it was a lot more like, in terms of the exams and stuff, was a lot more sort of flowery and talking around the point, whereas law, you make it sound pretty, but if you're talking about constitutional law, just state some facts. And so that was a learning curve in terms of how to approach.
It's a nice wake-up call, though.
Yeah. It was.
But funny enough, for running your own law firm and running your own business, you need a bit of both in the law.
Yeah, 100%.
From the doing the law, you need to the point, follow the law, get it done. But from a boosting your own business perspective, you need to be able to dress up and make sure that you're positioned correctly. And maybe.
So I think, it wasn't planned that way, but I think in hindsight, it was quite a good thing, that I did both.
Well, look, I can say this. I wouldn't put you on the spot, but I used to work in marketing and I in corporate many moons ago. And I think anybody listening to this will understand, who's been sat in a marketing meeting in a corporate, will know that they tend to go on for way longer than they should, because no one gets to the point. And that's very common. And as someone who does a lot of marketing myself, I get it. You can sit there going, but having that combination of the two, of going, right, we've got to get to the point. What is our objective? What is our message? But it's good for the business. But from a law perspective, learning it, they taught you nice and early. You're not getting to the point. Yeah. So and that was at UCT as well, was it?
UCT.
Yeah.
So,
and you were more comfortable in that law space. Did it start to feel like this is something you should be doing? And
I think definitely that it was something I was more passionate about. I think also potentially through that, I managed to overcome some of my mental health issues as well. Never completely, but definitely I was in a much better mental state when I finished my law degree.
Obviously I'm not going to put you on the spot to talk about this, but mental wellness is something that I talk about a lot. I've talked about openly about myself, at 47 years old, you don't go through life and building businesses and having challenges with family like I have without having similar issues. And I talk quite openly about anxiety and things like that, which again I've worked through myself. But I think it's important that people like us do talk about it, because it's so common.
Yeah.
And I think wherever you are in life, whether you're studying or whether you're later in life, it feels very solo. It feels very much like you're the only person who's ever gone through this. And it really just isn't true. And so it's good to talk about. But also from where you are, and again, just because some of the listeners are overseas and they might not know this, and again, I don't know whether it played a part, but Bishops is a fantastic school, but it's also pressurized, you know, and UCT isn't a rubbish university either. So,
No.
you know, you, from an educational perspective, it's kind of constant, it's about achieving.
Yeah.
Right? And I wonder whether that kind of fit in with.
Definitely. I mean, Rob, we could go down this psychoanalyzing route, and I have done with my
Professionals.
Yeah, for many years, but definitely that. And I think, you know, I'm very proud to have gone to Bishops, but like you say, there is that kind of pressurized environment. I also found that Bishops was a little bubble. So you know, like we had great teachers, and you know, you just had to achieve and you know, get the marks or whatever, play the sport, and then you kind of get out into the real world, and things are, you know, not as spoon fed, I would say. You know, you don't have to go to lectures, or you know, you're not getting sort of extra help or whatever. So I think that definitely played a part.
Well, that's why they call it the real world, right?
Yeah.
Because you come out of an institution like that and go, oh, okay, the rest of the world isn't like this.
Yes.
You know, no one's going to give me a hand.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, and it's interesting because, again, there's lots of listeners overseas and here in South Africa that listen to this, looking for inspiration, looking at their own trials and tribulations, and yes, many of them will have gone to the same school or will have gone to similar. You know, I know people that you know, have come out of the like places like Michael House as well, and you know, it's the same sort of challenge. And as much as it does set you up well for life, it also doesn't in many ways.
Definitely, and I, you know, not to harp on about it, but also you get to UCT, and then there's almost this kind of stigma that, you know, Bishops, you got your Rondebosches and your Sachs, and you know, now these days, I don't know, you know, my friends, I don't even remember where we went to school, but there was that kind of, you know, almost them against you in a way, potentially. But
played out on the rugby field often as well.
Yes. I think these days, in those days, we kind of dominated them on the rugby field, I believe. But now I think, they're struggling against those schools.
So going back to one of the reasons why, you know, some of the reasons why you then studied law, it's interesting. I mean, obviously you say it with a smile in terms of, you know, good at debating, but also being quite argumentative at home. It's funny how many people did get into law because of their parents saying you should do this. Basically because you are constantly arguing me at home and trying to get your own way. I've got a daughter who's very similar to that at the moment. Maybe that's she should take the route of her grandfather and go down the law route as well. But so it's funny for me always how what it is that triggers, and obviously in that case for you it was that. Quite often it could be TV shows as well. I had loads of guests who've said, you know, things like depending on which generation they're in, it's either LA Law, Ally McBeal, or, you know, Suits or, you know, Boston Legal maybe. And I had one guest the other day who said it was Elle Woods in Legally Blonde, which is brilliant, you know. But it's funny how something triggers you. So then you're in your mid-20s and you're studying the law, and then you come out, and what are you, 28, 27, 28?
Around there, I would say. 4 years. Look, it's been a long educational journey. I forget sometimes how long, but I would say around the 28 mark. And then did the 6-month school for legal practice.
Yes.
And then did my articles at STBB, Smith Tabata Buchanan Boys.
Good firm. In Claremont?
I did 6 months in town and 6 months in Claremont.
Okay.
I did a litigation stint and then a conveyancing stint.
Big property firm, STBB. Certainly here in the Cape.
Yes. What are their tagline is the big little firm or something. And
they do a lot of the conveyancing and property work.
I think that's their bread and butter, the conveyancing. Then from there I then went into practice at a small sort of a boutique law firm called Hanks Nolte Jabay Attorneys, based in Constantia and Hout Bay. There was a conveyancing department and a commercial and litigation department. I worked in that side of things, the litigation side. The firm is no longer. They went through a couple of different names with directors, and now my boss, Johnny Hanks, who was the director in charge of commercial and litigation, has his own firm. Just a little plug for him here. Has his own firm, Johnny Hanks and Associates, and cool. Interestingly enough, I now kind of am working with him again in some aspects, because he does. He's got a conveyancing wing, and he does litigation. So with my clients being a legal consultancy, I can't do litigation or reserved work conveyancing. So I've used him if clients need litigation or conveyancing matters. So
it's nice how things go around.
And it's we always kept up when I moved on, we kept up a good friendly relationship, and it's nice how that's kind of sort of come full circle again.
Yeah, no, it's good to keep those. The older we get, the more we realise that the importance of keeping good relationships, don't we? And you will meet people again.
Yes.
When you're 21, 22 and you think you're invincible,
yes,
you don't care, and you go around upsetting everybody and doing whatever you want. But they will remember.
Yeah, and particularly now, having my own business, you realise you can't. When you were at a job and you left a job, it was, maybe you didn't like someone and you just went out in a blaze. But you realise quickly that networking and staying on good terms with people is helpful in business, right?
Yeah, you will meet them again.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I again, without going on about it too much, because I do tend to do this, but I've noticed this as well, living all over the world, is that, especially if you're in, obviously we're a supplier to the legal industry, but it will be no different to that, to people being in it, is that it's a small world. It's a very small, and people will remember you, and they'll know someone who knows you, and it's importance of keeping good relationships. But it's good that you are doing that. I mean, and with your former boss, as it were. So then you moved into the alternative legal services space and legal consulting space.
That's right.
With Exigent, who are a great firm and are here in the Cape.
Yeah.
What sort of drove that? What was that move?
Initially, as I mentioned, I was doing litigation. I kind of realized that wasn't where my passion lied, in the law. So initially, then I did my master's. I did a professional master's in intellectual property law, more studying. So that's, I think,
glutton for punishment.
Now it's we've done the 4 years business science, 4 years law, 2 more years, so that's up to a decade of studying. So I was going to do that full time, and then decided to do that part time. So it took 2 years, not 1. So I worked for Exigent while doing my masters.
They do have a nice flexible sort of setup there.
Yes, I mean, it was hard work to hold down a full-time job and study, but being a part-time master's, it was manageable. A lot of sort of weekend work and stuff. So Exigent, I kind of just happened upon it by chance, really. I didn't really know much about the alternative legal services space, and at that stage was introduced to like legal tech, and so I was in the e-discovery department, being a project manager for document reviews, and I really did enjoy it. I really enjoyed my time there, but always eventually wanted to get back into more sort of proper legal based work, rather than the project managing side of things. So great memories of Exigent, and then from there kind of went into I've had sort of various in-house roles.
That's an interesting move. The first one I don't really know the institute, but it's on the education side, right?
Yes,
Valencia
Institute. So they were a startup. It's an online high school, which kind of I joined there just as COVID struck. So it was kind of in a way like a blessing for them, because now they're an expert in online schooling, and kids are, can't go to physical schools. So
Yeah, it's boom time for them.
Yeah, it was. It was. But yeah, so that was cool. As a startup, I was involved with a lot of foundational legal stuff. So doing their company policies.
Yeah.
A lot of the contractual frameworks and client contracts, supplier contracts, getting their compliance frameworks in order, your data protection compliance. So yeah, that was a great, I think in terms of a learning that I basically was man alone there. I did that all by myself, which was a nice way of sort of segueing into what I do now in terms of giving me confidence that I can do this. Myself. And then from there moved on to another in-house role. Actually, it was a government agency called the South African Heritage Resources Agency, which it's an agency mandated to basically manage and protect all of South Africa's heritage resources, which, yeah, very interesting. I didn't know this sort of framework. There's an act, the National Heritage Resources Act, and there's we've got built up property. There's shipwrecks. There's marine and underwater things, and lots of different heritage resources. So yeah, that was interesting.
Are they based on Ruland Street?
They are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just looking at it, thinking, I've seen that.
Yes.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
that's where my office is. So.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, it's a nice office. And yeah, so that was. But at that point, I'd kind of been, it had been stewing in my mind that I want to give self-employment a go.
Look, I want to get into that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, what is nice about your experience and what will resonate with the listeners as well is the fact that you have seen many different facets of what's available in the law.
Yeah.
You're combining the education part and the further education part with, the law firm side of things, the in-house legal tech and alternative legal services, and then branching out into your own legal consultancy. So there's that is almost all of the aspects of that you can see within the industry. So
yes.
From a and I'm just not just saying this because you're sitting in front of me, but from a if someone's looking for legal services, a legal services provider,
yes.
then with Laylaw, your company, they're getting someone who's seen every aspect.
Sure.
The client side, the tech side, at the law firm side. So that, that puts you in a really good position to do what you're doing.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah. I'd like to think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that start their own legal consultancies and probably do very well, but haven't seen every side of it.
Yeah.
Every side of the coin, as it were. So, but you have. So you can, that will definitely come in, I'm sure, when you're dealing with clients and what their challenge might be.
Yes.
You go, I've seen this. I've seen that.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
You probably do.
It definitely, I mean, the business side of things, the in-house role definitely helps with that, sort of servicing businesses and individuals as well, being in practice. So yeah, I would definitely say that it has been helpful with experiencing all of those routes.
So it's been the first year.
Yeah.
So how's it been?
It's been good. It's so I launched in July last year. So yeah, before I get into that, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, I did, and I've mentioned this to you before, that part of the kind of genesis and maybe push for me to take the plunge was one of your Legal Unicorn podcasts with Frida.
Yes.
Where she spoke, because this idea had been stewing for a while, that I want to, do form a legal consultancy and have my own business. But obviously with that comes, the fears of giving up, employment and guaranteed income. And there's, it's always a trade-off. You want the freedom, you want the, the joy and the ability to grow your own thing. but on the other side of the coin, there is that fear and that anxiety. You know, will I be able to pay the bills? Will it work? You know, am I good enough? But yeah, like I said, that conversation you had with Frida really, you know, what she did was, and the way she spoke was exactly how I was feeling, and I'm sure a lot of people are feeling who wanting to take this route. So, yeah,
I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no,
Awesome.
I don't know if it worked, but it definitely pushed me over, and yeah, so kind of very slowly was working on things in the back end, you know, working on the idea, like, you know, what my service offerings would be, got the website created, terms and conditions, all that kind of thing. And then, to be honest, was kind of, you know, wanting to, I didn't want to go, I was looking for a way to kind of dip my toe into it, kind of half and half. So I was looking for kind of a part-time consultancy job that was, you know, guaranteed, and then you know, then would launch Laylaw on the side. But you know, that didn't kind of work out. So I eventually decided to just take the plunge, resigned from my last job at the South African Heritage Resources Agency. Took a month to just kind of get everything ready, you know, do some preliminary work and stuff, and then launched, and it's been great. I mean, it's been, you know, I've learned so much. You know, I've got some steady clients. There's still growing to do, but it's been, I'm so glad I made that decision.
Brilliant.
You know, it's been very, very rewarding, and you know, I'm confident about the future and you know, where it's going to go and grow and scale and everything.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, I mean, I follow your stuff online and try to like and share as much as I possibly can. But everybody out there should find you on LinkedIn and Laylaw as well, and follow what you're doing. But just for others that might be listening, maybe considering something similar, what has been in your first year? Has there been a standout challenge? Has there been anything that you've...
Look, I was thinking about this, and interestingly, in terms of what I've learned in the first, well, almost 1 year of business, so just less than 1 year of business, but I kind of learned very quickly that, you know, the business is me, it's man alone, right? It's me, but I kind of learned early on that you know, no man is an island. You can't do this alone. So whether it be your service providers, accounting services, you know, my web developer, but more so than that is, and I realized this early on in terms of thinking about how to grow this business and scale it, was to reach out to various other consultants and law firms, and you know, because there's only so many hours of the day, and you know, I can't do. And also, there's only so much expertise that I have. So to have this kind of network, and you know, I've had a lot of conversations, and we've come to various arrangements with lots of different consultants that we can collaborate, and that's a cool thing, is the collaborative aspect. So whether it be on a mutual consulting basis or a referral basis, you know, if someone else, a consultant, has capacity and I don't, then you know, I give the work over to them, you know, my client, so we'll charge like you know, I will charge my client. So there's ways of, without going down the employment route, and that may come having employees, but essentially it's me alone, but then I have a network of consultants, which has allowed me to offer, you know, even more services where I don't have expertise. So I would say that, like, that learnings of you know, just being open to collaboration, because like you say, there are other people like me, and that's kind of where we're helping each other out, but also on that front, collaborating with sort of traditional law firms, like I said, my old boss, in terms of litigation, because you know, being a legal consultant, I mean, I can get into my services, but you know, not being registered with the LPC, you know, you can't do reserved work. So and that's the thing with the consultancy aspect, is it's a very holistic thing. You're wanting to help clients, and there's if they need a litigator, then I can refer them to a litigator. So it's,
but you're offering that advisory service, but
Yes.
also that
Yes.
you've got those collaborations on the
Exactly.
side should they need it.
Exactly.
So what is your niche? What do you do? Where are you working on?
So I'll give you the kind of the genesis of and the basic idea. Like I mentioned, I went in-house, worked for a couple of different organizations in-house, and I kind of had this idea that there's a gap in the market for smaller or growing businesses, not big corporations, that need legal support, they need legal work, but they can't afford to have a full-time in-house counsel. I learned this from my own jobs, that it's a relatively high-paying job, and many businesses can't afford to have someone on full-time, and don't necessarily need someone on full-time. So the initial kind of genesis of the idea was to be this outsourced in-house counsel, either offer services ad hoc or on a retainer basis for a limited number of hours that suits their budget. So that was the kind of overarching idea, to service smaller businesses and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and freelancers. And then from there, I've kind of unbundled it. So it's mainly what I call the drafting or vetting of various legal documentation. So contracts of all kinds, business contracts, employment contracts, terms and conditions, company policies, from a labor. It's kind of putting together all the skills that I've developed in my career, putting them all together. So like from working in-house, I dealt with a lot of disciplinary hearings and grievance hearings. So I offer that to chair those along with drafting the policies.
But from an independent perspective, rather than being on the side of the
exactly,
yeah,
no, exactly. So
being
as an independent chair, so it's a lot of contracts. I've got different packages. So look, without going on about this, I invite you to go check out my website.
Yeah.
It's all quite. It's
and we'll put the links in below as well. Yeah.
But there's a quite a robust data protection, different packages, right? So all the stuff you need for POPIA compliance, as well as GDPR compliance if you have operations in the EU. And like I said, I offer wills and trust formations.
Which is helpful for the individual that's running the business as well. Looking after both sides.
Exactly. And
which often we forget.
No, yeah, 100%. So yeah, and then through, like I mentioned, through working with other consultants, then I've started to expand my service offerings based on what expertise these consultants might bring.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Depending on who you meet and who you want to work with, and what they offer, then you can offer that as a secondary service to your client base.
Yes,
if they need it.
Yes.
Now it's fascinating because it's really is this sort of embracing of what they call the gig economy is exactly what you're doing, and I've been obviously in this space for over 20 years, and I have been banging on about this for the last 5 or 6, maybe slightly longer. We've done a lot of research. We did some joint research with LexisNexis. We've done a lot of work in this space, looking at the trends, and the trend, whilst there is a strengthening within some of the big law, there is also this massive growing market for entrepreneurs like yourself, who are working together in a collaborative environment, and then other industries, more and more people setting up their own businesses. It's kind of splintering, and you are offering a service for that, which is brilliant.
And I've read some of your writings on the gig economy, and I agree fully. I think also, not only does it give one freedom to, not be in an employment relationship where you're tied down to one employer. You can explore other options, and I think, just to mention, without sort of having a go at traditional big law and big law firms, I think not only the budgetary aspects of, I think for me certainly, when I was doing litigation, I always kind of had a problem with the way payment was structured. So you're doing fee journals, and every single email and every single phone call is recorded, and clients don't really know what they're in for. They can't budget accordingly. They might get an invoice at the end of a month, at the end of any given month, and not know what they were in for. So,
Yeah,
the sort of
smaller businesses need more flexibility.
Yeah, and the fixed fee movement, and being just, I understand it's not always possible to be completely fixed fee, but just to be transparent, especially with these smaller businesses that I'm servicing, they need their budgets are tight sometimes, and they need to know exactly what they're in for. So whether it's I'm doing a full service for them, on retainer, or they want a specific contract, they need to know, upfront what that is. And some things it's easier to say, to give a fixed fee, but others, you might have a limited hourly rate up to a limit, so that they know what they're in for.
Yeah.
And I think there's
important.
There's a scope for bigger law firms to also go down that route.
Some of them are, I suppose. Some of them are, in terms of offering having their own alternative legal service provider. It's becoming a lot more fluid than it used to be.
It is, and I think that for me, I read somewhere, and it's definitely it's changing, but in terms of business models, I think it's finally it's coming around. But I think law was one of the slowest industries to kind of embrace change in a way. It's a very archaic kind of industry, and now it now is, which is great to see. But
the business of law is driving that.
Yes, yes.
And those last people are holding on to. But I often say it that. Just look at investment banking. If you really want to see an industry that embraced technology and embraced change and went to the moon and continues to grow, law will be okay. From what investment banking was in the 1970s to what it is now, by embracing change. Yeah. And we all know the stories. We've all read the books. About what investment banking used to look like. It was just, a bunch of old dudes sitting around just, trading bonds basically. And that's it. And now look at it, they run the world. So law has a interesting next 20 years, I think. Yeah. Now, one of the things we do when we are preparing for this is we obviously send questions out and that's really just to get you thinking about yourself, when you're taking a moment from your busy day to have a little think about where you've been. There's a couple of things before I let you go back to your Friday and your weekend ahead that I wanted to ask you that I think are really pertinent, certainly for yourself, but also for any listeners who might want to follow your route. You mentioned that you're a family man. Yeah. How's that been with your family in terms of making the change and going out on your own? I guess your wife's very supportive.
Yes, yes.
But how's that been?
It's been great, and I think I mentioned this in my response to those questions that it was already a tough kind of decision in my own mind to take the plunge. But without my family's support and encouragement, it would have been. I probably wouldn't have done it. I've still been stuck in a job I'm not that happy with. But yeah, so they've been very, very supportive, and so I have a young son as well. He's 5 months old, and
wow,
and yeah, no, thanks.
5 is 5 months.
5 months.
Well, have you slept yet?
I'd love to sit here and complain and say, I'm not sleep. But to be honest with you, he's been incredible. He's slept through the night very early on. Yeah, no, he's an angel. I'm fully expecting the regression stage to come, but he's been great. But it's funny because I decided to, maybe even more of a crazy move to start my own thing just before he was going to be born.
Yeah, I was going to say, timing wise, your wife would have been expecting, and you go, hi.
Yeah, but again, I think, people often say, that was an even bigger risk on top of the normal risk. But I look at it a different way. I I realized I wanted to do this. I wasn't that happy in the role that I was in for various reasons, which, I mean, I can get into or not, but
We'll save that for another
yeah,
time.
we'll do that in the next podcast. But it was more, I also thought, like, I mean, I mentioned that you know, my mental health and it's very much under control, but I kind of looked at it from a different perspective, that, you know, in order to be a good father, I would rather be happy. So, you know, I wasn't particularly happy in my job, and I didn't want to bring my first child into the world maybe not as happy, and that was causing some anxieties. I know I said I'm in control of it, but no, it's always there. It's a part of my DNA. I really
appreciate this as well.
Yeah.
No, sorry to interject, but sure. I really appreciate this because it's an important message as well. Like, it's such that's a defining moment of all our lives, is when our kids are born, and you know, and having a supportive wife, and I think you mentioned earlier, hopefully your parents are still with us.
Yeah, they are.
His dad still owes you a holiday home in Joburg, right?
Yes,
he does. Yeah, shout for Dad.
Yeah.
He owes you.
We can do something. We can go to Dad. We can go to sort of Scotland and play golf.
There you go.
St Andrews instead, if you want. The holiday home in Joburg's number one, but we can do that.
Take a substitute. Play golf in Scotland. But having that, but. It's interesting. I want to get the words right. It's interesting how, because I went through something similar, but it's how you know, the birth of your first child certainly just brings into focus what kind of world and environment you're bringing them up in, and not the wider world and that we're killing the planet. To be honest, that doesn't really matter. Like, to you at that point, it's like, Dad should be happy, Mum should be happy, and if I'm not, then what am I doing? I'm not giving them all that I should give them. So I get and it's an important lesson for people to learn if they're listening to this, thinking of taking a following move, a similar move to yourself. That getting your position right and saying, no, I deserve better than that. And you know. I sort of being slightly facetious here, but you know, it's almost like I'd rather be poor and happy than sitting doing a 9 to 5 that I hate.
Definitely,
because he's going to feel this. What kind of a message am I sending to him? And you know, we live in a world now where you can take control and do it yourself. So
definitely,
well done to you.
Thank you. And look, I want to be clear. I understand that you know, not everyone can potentially take that risk. It's not. It's you know, it's you know, I might be fortunate. You know, I've savings or whatever. Some people literally cannot afford to take that risk, and you know, I appreciate that. But like you say, you know, there's I don't want to talk about if the business fails, but you know, there's more to it than just, like you say, you know, money. You know, if it fails, and I don't think it's going to fail, and I'm happy with where Laylaw is going and but I can always go back into the you know, employed world. So, you know, I took a slightly different perspective, happiness and being in a better headspace. I'm also working from home mainly, so not that I'm not working hard, but I get to sort of see my son in his formative years.
You know, 5 months turns into 5 years very quickly. Take it from me.
Exactly.
My kids are now 12 and 10, and literally they were a year. I remember their first birthdays like yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get that. You're getting your health right. You're delivering. I mean, let's be honest. Working from home and working for yourself, you end up working harder than you ever worked before anyway.
100%.
So, and actually, sometimes I used to get up with my kids in the middle of the night and work whilst they're, whilst I'm trying to get them back to sleep.
But you can't really take your 5-month-old to an office, you know. Whereas if I'm working from home, there's.
But there was a couple of things. There's one thing that. Look, we could sit here all day, and I've got a whole heap of other things. I'm going to get you back because I want to talk to you about the future of law, where it's going. I'd like to check in with you as well, see how Laylaw's going and what's going on. And obviously, we have some business to discuss as well, which is great. Very keen to use your services. But in terms of, I'd like to end on Laylaw and where, you know, as you move into year 2 of your consultancy. Is it going to be more of the same? Is it steady growth? What are you? I mean, obviously you've been building these collaborations.
Yes.
What's on the horizon for Laylaw?
Yeah, so I think I'd like to. I've got a couple of clients on retainer. I'd like to build that client base, continue to get my name out there, get sort of more consistent clients, more collaborations with other consultancies. So I would say more of the same, but with greater expansion and growth.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think on that note as well, that one of the things that you're already doing, but if there's anyone listening out there that is in a similar position, maybe get in touch with you. Because that collective of people based all over the country is you can bring together.
Sorry, I meant to say that. I completely forgot. Yeah. So like I've been talking about these collaborations, whether you have your own consultancy or whatever, please do get in touch. I love to have a conversation and just discuss how we can potentially work together, because like I said, that's a really fun part, and I think very important part of the business if you're going for a model that doesn't involve employment situations. So please, if you have a similar kind of thing, or even if you're working in a law firm or whatever, please, I'd love to get in touch and have a chat.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to end as well, because you've got, and I know this because I've done it myself, and you've obviously done it, and there'll be people listening that have just started to go out on their own. We've talked a little bit about those who might be thinking about it, but those who have just started out, or maybe in the first year or year or two as well. Look, it is tough, and there'll be times where you feel like you're on your own.
Yeah.
But if they get in touch with you, then they're not on their own.
Yes.
There's like-minded people out there, and you touched on it yourself earlier when you said, like, I can't remember exact words you said, but you can't do all of this on your own. So there are colleagues out there that can share the burden.
Whether it be a working environment where we work together and collaborate, or just like you say, a sounding board. We're all trying to make it. We're trying to carve our way out on our own little businesses. So we can help each other out. And chat about our successes and our concerns, and
just have a moan.
And well, exactly. So I mean, it seems like I'm starting a sort of a therapy business as well.
That is what business is all about, isn't it? It's sort of a half therapist,
and
then so we'll do a deal or two.
I might add that service to my website.
Nice chat.
Yeah.
Well, look, on that note, Richard, thanks for joining us today. And, and obviously anybody that is looking to get in touch, the links will be below. Check him out, connect with Laylaw, and bring your business to them and their collaborations, or be in collaboration as well. But thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the weekend. Looks like it's going to be a sunny one. So thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers.